One of the many trends that I've noticed in the past couple of years is as the quality of villains in anime and movies have gotten way better, it seems like almost, I wouldn't say every villain, but it seems like a good chunk of villains aren't really villains. It seems like almost every other villain has some moral compass or has some secretly good reason as to why they're a villain instead of just them wanting to be evil like how it used to. And I don't really like that, because a lot of the times when I'm watching something and you're supposed to be the villain but I end up agreeing with you, you're not a villain. And even though you're supposed to be the villain, you have a moral compass, you're not really doing evil things, but the show is making you out to be the villain, and sometimes the main character ends up being more of a villain than the actual villain is. And to be honest with you, I just want my villains to be evil. They don't need a moral compass. They don't need a good reason as to why they're a villain. They don't need an anime protagonist backstory as to why they're evil. They don't need none of that shit. I just want my villains to be evil just for the sake of being evil, because that's what the fuck they're supposed to be. Now, this has probably been going on longer than for what I can remember, but I first remember this trend getting popular when Black Panther 1 was released, and everybody in their mama would seem to agree with what Killmonger did. And one of the main discussions that was going on when this first came out wasn't even about the movie itself. It was about whether or not Killmonger was right or whether or not he was wrong. And he was supposed to be the villain, quote, quote, of the film. But it's like, if you have majority of audiences agreeing with what the supposed villain is doing, then he's not a villain, he's an anti-hero. And even you had some people saying that Killmonger was right and T'Challa was wrong, even though T'Challa is supposed to be the main hero of the story in the entire movie. But you have people saying that he's in the wrong and Killmonger was in the right. You can't have people agreeing with what your villain does, because that's not what's supposed to happen. Having people agree with the supposed villain of the story basically kills whatever momentum the supposed villain had in said movie. One of the things I didn't really like about the first Black Panther was them trying to make Killmonger agreeable while still trying to say that he was a villain. If he was more or less portrayed as like an anti-hero, then it would have worked. But I feel like we were sort of losing what is an anti-hero and what is actually a villain. Killmonger wasn't an actual villain. Killmonger was an anti-hero. Because when you have majority of the audience who went to go see your movie basically saying that they agree with what he did, they agree with his methods and his ways of going about it, then he's not a villain, he's an anti-hero. Similar things can be said about Thanos and Avengers 2, because you did have a big group of people saying that Thanos was right, what Thanos did was good, what Thanos was trying to help humanity. You know, Thanos wasn't, really the bad guy in the movie and everything like that. But I feel like we're sort of losing the point of what is an anti-hero and what is a true villain. Thanos is a true villain. Killmonger is an anti-hero. Somebody like Thanos basically said to, cure, the cosmos of, evil, I'm just gonna wipe out half the fucking population of every planet in every universe that in every galaxy. Even though that's fucking stupid, you still had people out here agreeing with him, saying that he was right. And I'm not meaning like, the meme way of saying that, Thanos was right. I'm saying like literal senses of people agreeing with him and saying that he was right. Because one of the things that makes a villain, like one of the many things that makes the villains like the Green Goblin so great, is that they have no agreeable part of their personality. They have no agreeable personality trait. They're just evil, and they want to make the hero's life fucking pointless, basically. They don't have this, moral reason, this sad backstory, this sad, anime backstory or whatever the fuck. They're just evil just for the sake of them being evil, and that's it. There is no, I had a traumatic childhood, or their dad or their mama didn't hug them enough when they were a kid, and now they want to, kill all the parents in the world because they didn't get hugged enough as a kid. They're just evil just because, and I like that. I don't need all of my villains to, have this sad backstory and try to have, good qualities in them. No, you're a villain. Your whole point is to be evil. You do not need to be agreeable in any sense at all. And you can even be a little bit over the top with it and just say, I don't fucking like anybody, and that's your reason for doing the evil shit that you do. I feel like in my eyes, what makes a great villain is the fact that you can't agree on nothing they say. Nothing they say makes sense nothing they say makes any sense as to why they are the way they are. Nothing makes sense as to why they're doing this to the hero, why they're causing chaos in the city or whatever they're doing. Nothing that they're doing really makes sense, but that's the point. They're not supposed to be agreeable. They're supposed to be this crazy person who just wants to fucking watch the world burn, basically. That's their whole point and objective in a movie as a villain or even as an antagonist. Not even just like, you know, a superhero villain, just as an antagonist by itself. Your whole point is to disrupt the hero's journey and try to end it as quick as possible. I am not supposed to go to the movie theater, watch a movie, and agree with the bad guy by the end of the fucking movie. I'm not supposed to walk out the theater and be like, oh, is he the bad guy? Is the protagonist the bad guy? That's not what I'm supposed to walk out thinking. Unless that's like the whole point of the movie and there is no real hero, then that's fine. But if I walk into a movie and there's a clear protagonist and there's a clear person that's supposed to be the antagonist, then they need to be antagonistic. They need to be villainy. Like, they need to be evil just for being evil. I don't need to be confused as to who's the villain and who's the hero, because that then ruins the movie for me. Movie, show, whatever. Like, for instance, if we look at somebody like the Joker, none of us ever question whether or not the Joker is the good guy or the bad guy. Yeah, his psychology with Batman is fucking weird, but Batman's psychology with all of his villains is fucking weird because he's fucking weird and he's psychotic as damn self. But Batman, since on the topic of Batman himself, he himself is not a direct hero. He's an anti-hero. But we know for a fact that Joker is a villain because Joker is evil just to get at Batman. Joker doesn't even want Batman to die. He just wants to fuck with him his entire life. And Batman isn't necessarily a hero himself. Because if he was a hero, any other hero would have killed Joker. Superman even killed Joker in the comic book stories. But that's the thing that makes Joker so like great as a villain. He just doesn't give a fuck. He'll literally fuck with you just for the sake of fucking with you. And even if somebody tries to kill Batman, he will go kill them first before he tries to kill Batman. And even in one of the animated movies, he was upset when he found out Batman's secret identity. He doesn't even want to know who Batman really is or none of that shit. He just wants to fuck with Batman because he thinks it's funny. And that's kind of why I like basically most of the Batman villains, is because a lot of them are just evil because they're evil. Even when they try to have a reason, it be stupid, and it's just like, well, you evil, just be evil. Your reason doesn't make sense. Like Riddler in the newest Batman movie, he's just evil just because. He tried to give a little sob story, but it didn't fucking work. He's just evil just for the sake of being evil. And that's why I like the Batman and the Riddler. Well, not with the Joker and the Riddler, especially the Joker, because he's just evil just because. He doesn't have a backstory. He doesn't have a reason or try to have a moral compass like a lot of these other villains have been trying to have. He is just evil for the sake of being evil. And that's it. Plain and simple. No other details. Just evil for the sake of being evil. Because they tried to give him more of a backstory in the Joker movie, a solo movie. But even then, it's like, okay, you were a loner and you had a shitty life, so you just have to kill people? Like, no, you're still fucking psychotic for no fucking reason. And this is what I feel like we need to go back to. I feel like we need to go back to when villains were just that, villains. Villains weren't trying to be anti-heroes. They weren't trying to be, you know, oh, but if I do this and kill all these people this way, it'll make society better. Like, no, all of the villains, it seems like a lot of villains, especially in like Marvel movies, are trying to become like the Punisher. Like, they're trying to be this anti-hero that's saying, well, I'm getting rid of all the bad people and the people that I think are bad, so I'm not really the bad guy. You're the bad guy for just putting them in jail and they get out in a couple of years. Well, it's like, I don't need that in my villains. I just want you to do evil shit just because. I want you to be like Orochimaru. I just want you to do this shit just because you want to be strong or something. I don't care about none of that backstory shit or none of that. I just want you to be evil just for the sake of being evil.